So, good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning, TC. It's nice to be with you.
So, this morning we're here with Kathleen, and we're going to be talking about her experience with fasting. I have some questions, and the first question is, what was your purpose in fasting?
My purpose in fasting to better engage with other people who care about peace. I'm Kathleen Temple. I live in Rockingham County, Virginia. It's a very conservative area here and not a lot of people. I mean, I'm in the middle of the Shenandoah Valley. There is a long history of war and warism right here, right here where I live. First, my ancestors having invaded and stolen the land of and killed the original inhabitants years and years ago. And then, the Civil War was right here. And it's still a pretty conservative area. I, however, have gotten involved. I wasn't raised this way. I was raised in a very secular family and environment in Arizona, but I got involved with Mennonites
Mhm.
after I became an adult. And the reason I got involved with the Mennonite church, it's a branch of the Christian religion. The reason I got involved with them as kind of a secular walk-on was because they were involved with peace. They believed in pursuing peace and making peace. So that's my background, and my purpose for getting involved with fastforpeace.org is just an extension of this whole life of pursuit of peace.
How did you hear about fastforpeace.org?
Fastforpeace.org, all lowercase letters, because we want to convey that it's not an institution, it's not a rigid membership type of operation. It's just a very practical and inclusive. I perceive it as a very inclusive kind of thing. Fastforpeace.org, all lowercase. But the way I got involved, or the way I found out about fastforpeace.org, is that one of my local friends here, who is also a Mennonite, Tem, attended a peace rally in Washington, D.C. during the spring. I think it might have been March of 2023. And there at this peace demonstration, my friend Tem ran into Brian, who runs fastforpeace.org. Brian gave him some flyers to say, hey, have you ever thought of fasting for peace, along with all the other things that we do in pursuit of peace? So Tim told some of us about it after he came back to the Shenandoah Valley. And I said, well, yeah, I've been looking for people who might want to organize together to use fasting as a tool, not primarily as a spiritual exercise, although it is that for me, but as a political tool, a way to bring more light on the subject of war, the suffering it causes, and the hope we have for a world beyond war.
What was your overall experience of fasting?
I was scared at first. I was so kind of daunted by the idea. Years and years ago, decades ago, I had some small experience with fasting for 24, 36 hours at a time. But that was when I was young. It was a long time ago. So I thought, what if this really just is unbearable to me? I didn't know how it would feel. But with fastforpeace.org, Brian has us organized where when people want to, and it's very much up to the individual in ways that we participate, but there is a fast that lots of people participate in on the 15th of each month. And there are also other days throughout the year for fasting and in remembrance of or in honor of different things. But the first fast that I then decided to try after I learned about Fast for Peace was the 15th of one month. I think that might have been June or July. And I was amazed. It was way easier than I thought it would be. maybe as one gets older, it can be easier. I've heard this from someone else who's my age and has just started to participate with Fast for Peace. And she said too that she hadn't ever fasted for years and years, but is trying to participate as much as possible now with fastforpeace.org. And she, like me, finds it to be much easier than it used to be. It's still not all that easy. When one gets older, one has different kinds of health considerations, and I'm not actually doing a strict water only fast. Some people, most of the people who participate, I think most do just water only, but I also have some broth. I had some juice, some of my tonic water, sugar-free tonic water, because I need a little quinine to keep my legs from getting cramps. So these kinds of things, I build that in. And maybe that's part of what makes it easier, but it is at least a way to focus myself during the time that I am fasting. It's very deliberate. I can't just walk over to the refrigerator and grab something. I have to really be mindful about what I'm doing, and that I'm doing it in order to pray for, to hope for, and to have solidarity with other people for peace and against war.
Do you connect like on a Zoom or any way on the day of the fast?
Well, I email with Brian and others on and off before the fast or maybe during the fast. And then in the evening of the day that is set for everyone to be fasting together, Brian hosts a Zoom meeting where we can get together and debrief. And one of the things I really like about that Zoom meeting, and sometimes I haven't been able to attend the Zoom meetings to debrief, but the times that I have, it has been so interesting to meet other people who care about peace and health and wholeness, and to stand against war. That's how I heard about you, TC, and I've met people in other parts of the country too through Brian's Zoom meetings.
What would you say was the high point of your fast?
The high point of my fast? You mean on the day of the fast?
When you were fasting, did you have a high or a low point?
I'd say it's all high.
Okay, so your high point was the fast.
Right. And knowing that I'm doing it with other people in this world. I don't, fasting's not used in my US culture, or at least US white people privileged culture. It's not very common. We hardly even have any food. People like me who are privileged and white, we hardly even have significant food insecurity, much less starvation. I find it so miraculous almost to be able to be in touch with other people who are intentionally entering into this experience of a kind of deprivation, which so many people in this world live this experience all the time, very constantly, even children having to live this experience very constantly. So yes, it's a high. It's a high to be able to participate.
So did you get hungry? Were you hungry?
Yes, I did get hungry, but it wasn't as uncomfortable as I remember it feeling when I was young. And now, since I just started thinking about children, I bet this really is the case. And maybe somebody should ask Brian, because he knows a lot about fasting, its history, and the physiology involved in all this. I bet it is way harder on a child's body than it is on somebody like me who's 69 and a half.
Well, they need more nutrients.
Yes, and more constantly. They need a constant infusion. Right. So thinking about the areas of the world where there are wars going on right now, in Gaza, where half the population is under the age of 18, and all of the population is being starved to death. It's just appalling. So fasting can maybe help us engage with that a little bit. It certainly can help me. It helps me to advocate more with more determination, hopefully with more energy and conviction. I call my legislators every day in the cause of peace. I have for years. And thinking about the starvation of the children of Gaza has propelled what I call my peace lobbying even more than it had been. And I tell my legislators I'm fasting. I have told them that I'm fasting, and I hope that makes them listen more closely to my appeals. Lord knows they're not listening very closely. We need to try to get them to listen more closely.
So did you feel empowered talking, like when you call them and you tell them you're fasting, like, do you feel like you're making that sacrifice and empowering yourself to speak more truth to power?
Yes. Though that's an interesting phrase about truth to power, because I have a hunch that the people in power know exactly what they're doing. It's not by accident. So, but I want them to know that I know. So yeah, speaking my truth to their power. Yes, it does. I do feel more propulsion, more power when I can tell them, look, I'm making this particular personal sacrifice of fasting, and that's part of my work for peace. And sir, because I have all men as my representative and my senators, sir, I expect you also to sacrifice things about your life for peace, because people are dying.
Did you get in any insights?
I think it has increased the insight I have into how actually really powerless we are, we ordinary people, because the people who run the wars and make decisions for war and peace really don't listen to us. I don't know if this country we're in right now here can be called a democracy. We certainly can't. What they do does not reflect public opinion somehow. So the insight is about how little power we have, but paradoxically, fasting does help me feel more personal power. Well, and more personal power because of connecting with the power of other people also who are working for peace.
Would you recommend fasting to others?
Well, I would, to anyone who thinks they would like to do it. I would definitely not recommend it to someone who doesn't feel the desire to do it. And I guess there could be more than one kind of desire. Some people might feel a desire to explore about it just out of curiosity. Now I'd say, yeah, try it. You might see that it really does help you in some ways in your own personal power, your insight, your identification with the suffering of others. Who knows? But then the other kind of motivation someone has is to really employ fasting as a spiritual or political tool, or both. And I would definitely advocate to go ahead and do it if that's what you're looking for. Definitely not want to strong arm somebody else, or I wouldn't go door to door and invite my neighbors.
Did you talk more about how the sense of community that you had knowing that you were fasting with others during that time?
Well, that it's been good to talk with other people or email with other people who are doing it, but also just inwardly knowing that I'm not the only one. It's like that song, the John Lennon song, that you might think that I'm a dreamer, but I am not the only one. That I really appreciate. I'm not the only one. I learned about a woman with Code Pink. I also participate in Code Pink, a national peace group, women-led peace group. It's been around for a long time. And I learned about a woman with Code Pink who's doing an extended fast for it, especially in appeal for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. I don't know whether she is still doing her fast right now. I wasn't able to participate with her directly. There were some misses in our communication, but even something like that, if I knew that someone was fasting and looking for fellow fasters for a specific project like that, a specific appeal, then I think I would feel the community aspect of it even more. But I have another associate who lives here in my town, a pastor in my town, who's doing a 40-day fast for ceasefire in Palestine. He's maybe doing his fast with less of a political agenda, more of a strictly personal and spiritual agenda. But I also feel like I'm in solidarity with him. He's getting, I think, close to 40 days now, must be.
How did you feel when you broke your fast?
The food was really good, but I also felt a little bit sad, like, oh, I'm ready to break my fast. This is when I am breaking my fast. It's good to break my fast. But I didn't accomplish what I had in my fantasy thought could be accomplished. An end to war everywhere forever. So there's that at the end too, kind of a letdown, a realization, but a determination to come back and do more if I can.
So what did you eat when you broke your fast?
Oh, I just ate my usual food. I'm a pretty healthy eater. I'm a vegetarian for decades, all good, organic, easy to digest food. So I just went to my regular food, but I haven't gone for more than a 24-hour fast yet. Oh, no, I did. I did a 3-day fast. How could I forget that? That one was harder. And when I broke that fast, I did just have soup for the first few hours and just go back gradually to my regular food.
You think you'll plan to invite others to
Yes.
fast for peace?
Yes, I do. I'm part of a local peace group here called Peace Praxis in Shenandoah Valley. And I have invited those folks, and a couple or three of them have engaged with it. But I also run an email list, I guess you'd say. I have an email list of about 200 people around the world who lobby for peace. And I write emails that I call my peace bits every day. And when I have been fasting, at least sometimes when I've been fasting, I mention there too and invite people to check out fastforpeace.org. And I don't know yet whether any of those persons have signed up or whether they've done it without signing up. I think a lot of people do engage with the fasts without necessarily signing up to do so.
Is there a celebrity that you might want to encourage to fast?
Well, funny you should ask, because I know 3 big celebrities. That is U.S. Representative Ben Cline, my representative, Senator Tim Kaine, formerly vice presidential candidate, my senator, and my other senator, Mark Warner, rich fellow, who's a senator. So I know these 3 celebrities, and I have invited them.
Oh, good.
I haven't heard a word back yet.
Yeah. What do you feel like will be your work going forward with your peace effort and with Fast for Peace?
Oh, it's hard for me to see very far into the future about any of that. Even if, my fantasy is, like I said, that there would be no more war ever, forever. But I do plan to get all the more involved with peacemaking and peace advocacy, peace lobbying.
What's your thoughts going forward?
Yes. As an older person, I'm not able to be out and about, and we have some health considerations, my husband and I. So I mainly do my peace advocacy from home. And I still, even though I will be mainly at home doing this kind of thing, I envision getting more involved with fasting, with advocacy of whatever kinds come along. But a new way that is opening up right now is that my church denomination, the Mennonites, they, for decades, if not for centuries, the Mennonites have been known as the quiet in the land. The quiet in the land. They stay silent. They keep their heads down. They don't get in anybody's way. They don't bother anybody. They don't speak out. You can probably tell from meeting me that I wasn't raised that way. I just later. But they are starting to speak out now for peace. I think they have so many connections with the Palestinian people that they are just finding it impossible to stay quiet any longer. And so they are starting, the Mennonite institutions in US and Canada anyway, are starting to speak out quite vocally for peace. And I hope to get at least some of them to be involved with fasting for peace too.
How are Mennonites and Quakers? Are they related in any way?
Well, slightly. They're both known as historic peace churches, along with the Church of the Brethren. That's the other big main not big, they're all small denominations. But the other group that is known as a historic peace church is the Church of the Brethren. But Mennonites, at least in the US, there are only about 60,000 Mennonites. There are many more Quakers than that, of different types of, I guess, different branches of Quakerism. But yes, we do have that relation together that we are peace churches. And in fact, for example, during World War II, most of the conscientious objectors to World War II, otherwise known as the Good War, which I don't like, because to me, no war is. Most of the conscientious objectors during World War II were Mennonites, Quakers, Church of the Brethren, along with some other groups like Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, there were some Catholics and non-religious people also who were conscientious objectors.
Do you have any final thoughts that you want to say about fasting that you would want other people to consider, to think about as they think about fasting?
Well, thank you for asking such an open-ended question. And thank you for asking me all these questions. Nothing comes to mind just right now, but I always try to exhort people, even though I wouldn't try to strong arm someone into fasting. I do try to strong arm my friends into calling their senators and their legislators and tell them what you want. If you want peace, tell them, because they're hearing from war lobbyists every minute of every day.
I want to thank you for your time, your presence. You were very entertaining and thoughtful and informative.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the chance to do this, TC. I really appreciate it. And it's been fun to get to know you a little bit. I'm sure we'll see one another in those Fast for Peace meetings from time to time.
We're going to sign off now, and I appreciate your time. Fast for Peace.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.